and welcome. I am Andy William Mackai, or Mackai Lorien, and I've had this idea stuck in my head for months now, and I just need to get it out. But before I get into the topic itself, I need to explain to you just what the problem is and where I am coming from. But in case you want to skip into the meat and potatoes, please use the timestamps to get to it. Now that the impatient are gone, I'll be the first to admit that I don't believe any of this to be happening or will happen. This is more of a thought experiment, a what if. And while it could apply to the PC, I'm coming at this from the console perspective, as the trajectory over the last 6 years, and especially recently, has been so crushing. And just to put everyone at ease, I fully believe PC to be the best gaming choice possible, now and in the future. The only problems I really have with PC is that you don't own the games, and even when you do, it's not physically. And while you may be okay with that, I personally am not. I like owning these. I like opening them. I like ogling them. I like fondling them. Doing those things makes me feel good. And if you can't understand that, you're the problem here. Not me. I'm normal. That's where I'm coming from. And for as long as I live, I will always be an advocate for physical ownership, even in the face of better, more convenient options. As for the problem, it's a storage problem, one that humanity has been silently facing in the background for decades now. Twice, humanity has faced an upper limit as to what it can contain. The first had to do with paper, as there was just too damn much of it to put anywhere. Thankfully, the dawn of the digital age saved us by condensing the information into easier to store storage devices. But this too was becoming a problem due to the sheer amount of data we were feeding into them. But once more, we were saved by cloud storage this time. Experts believe, however, that we will soon face a third one, because we basically quadruple our data worldwide every few years, thanks to those dumb 4K cat videos everyone likes to take. Or even like this video that will most likely end up being watched by 2 people, one of whom being myself. And demand isn't keeping up with that reckless use. And that's not even taking into account the massive burden that is AI. And we are now hoping for a new breakthrough that will save us a third time, like quantum storage, or what I would like to delve into today, DNA digital storage. It works like this. Using a computer to write a binary number code on a piece of synthesized DNA, then translating the binary code to writing with a computer when you want to use the information stored on the DNA piece. This would fix our data storage issues for 2 reasons. The first is DNA is literally made by nature to store information in it, with an incredible 215 petabytes per gram of space. And the second, if stored properly, it could last thousands of years as opposed to our half a century, if lucky, means of today. And let's get something straight here. This isn't sci-fi. This is an idea that's been floating around since the 1950s and has slowly been brought to life over the years. In fact, it's happened. Scientists have encoded entire books, images, and the entirety of Wikipedia in case something happens to it, all stored on DNA. So why isn't it more widely used or even known about? Because money. That's why. It costs $1,000 to save 1 kilobyte of data. That's this unit here. Less than a megabyte. This shit is expensive, making widespread use of it impossible. For now, as I have no doubt that if the day truly comes that humanity collectively decides we need this technology, it will happen. In 20 years, we went from this to this. In 150, from this to this. We move mountains, cross oceans, and launch ourselves towards the stars to achieve our aspirations. If we want something, we will have it. And more digital storage space is something humanity will need. Now, I'll be the first to admit that what I've talked about here is far off, hopefully, and in not much detail, as this isn't that type of channel. If you'd like more information on this topic, there are plenty of other YouTube channels that cover it in far greater detail than yours truly. What I want to talk about here is this technology's theoretical application inside of gaming. As I believe, half of gaming's problems today have to do with a lack of proper storage. A lot of these problems stem from the fact that game size is just too big today. Off the top of my head, games from the PS3 and 360 era were between 8 to 20 gigabytes, with extreme cases of 40 gigabytes. Today, major game releases are between 100 to 120, or in God of War Ragnarok's case, 185. Obviously, growth rates this huge are not sustainable for multiple reasons. First off, modern Blu-ray discs operate by layering 25 gigabyte CDs on top of each other for a max of 128 gigabytes. As for cartridges a la Nintendo, thanks to the ongoing fiasco that is game key cards, we know for a fact they come in 64 gigabytes. Larger cartridges than that are possible, but they need to be custom made by the third-party company, which is not going to happen. Unless you're CD Projekt Red and have a little bit of decency. Regardless, we've passed that. That's why some games come with 2 discs. It's a strategy that's been used for decades to get over hard storage limitations to great effect. But this has been changing as of late, as CDs and cartridges cost money to make. So there's been more of a push to not include the full game on the discs or the cartridges. but to have it downloaded off the system store. A great example of this is, once more, the game keycards. And no, they are not the only ones that sell you a box with an empty game cartridge. Some companies have even gone as far as to not include the disc in the box, but a download code like in Fallout 76. It's a cost-cutting tactic to something that's quickly becoming more trouble than it's worth. But even this tactic has an issue, as downloading games to save on the system itself isn't keeping up. As in the time games went from 20 gigabytes to 120, console storage went from about 200 to 1000, which might not sound so bad, but if you consider the fact that games today need to be installed into the consoles, so every half dozen games you'll need to delete some to play new ones, and if you want to play old ones you'll need to re-download them. But what happens when the system store inevitably goes offline? You'll lose access to the game, maybe forever, as a lot of games get lost between generations. And if you want to play them at that point, you'll have to pirate them. That's what the system pushes you towards. And that's the problem with storage capacity on consoles, CDs, and cartridges. Or you can just go on PC, but you don't own them. These conditions are horrible for physical game ownership. We are being herded against our will towards a digitally only future that will ultimately lead us towards less games once the console's stores go offline. That's what's called dead media. But let's say all of that wasn't an issue, that the demand would keep up with the supply. We would still lose in the end, because CDs, cartridges, and even console storage drives degrade with time. CDs can be damaged by UV lights and the adhesive keeping the layers together loosening over time. But on average, CDs last between 30 to 50 years if stored well. But I don't like that, as I own games that are already over 20 years old, and I hope to be able to replay them when I'm an 80-year-old man. But cartridges aren't much better, as they use a thing called NAND flash memory. Basically, what it means is that if you don't use them once in a while, it could stop working. The estimation for that being between 20 to 40 years, but I've heard of 3DS cartridges stopping working after 10. Even console SSDs degrade after time with use, and there go all those digital games you stored on them. All of them will degrade with time. That's just what happens when items get made for the general public in bulk. Quality suffers for it. But that's where DNA comes in. It could fix all of that and open new paths forwards. Like, apparently, GTA 6 is going to be so detailed you can see fingerprints on poles. That is a level of detail that, if true, and to assume more details like that are in the game, I can't imagine it being anything less than 250 gigabytes plus. And going forwards, other games are likely to match that. Storage already being a problem as of now, we can't have all games being that hyper detailed. But if we could store it on even a tenth of a gram of a DNA piece, we could have all the details we could ever want and still have petabytes of storage space left to go. But how would it be implemented? I can't imagine it being in CD format. The most likely option would be a cartridge holding the DNA piece that you would insert into a port. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. That way I could still buy them physically and stare at them. But I don't see that happening, as the ability to just own a DNA cartridge and be able to download things off the internet onto them and owning them forever would be far more convenient. But this too would be unlikely for many reasons, such as loss of the product. If there is ever a day when a DNA storage device is made, it would likely be added into the console itself in order to download massive modern games onto them, as opposed to DNA cartridges for physically owned games. But that may not be as bad as how we have it now, come to think of it, because these new DNA consoles could act as massive cartridges instead, as you wouldn't need to delete a game to make space for every 10 games just to download a new one. Because you would theoretically have so much space you wouldn't need to. That would mean even when the servers to the console went offline and you got locked out of re-downloading them, it wouldn't be a problem because you wouldn't have had to have deleted it in the first place to begin with. It will always be there, even centuries later. Wait a minute. My problem with digital games is that ownership isn't possible in bulk on a digital library due to the limitations of a console's storage drive. But this fixes my main issue. Yes, that's it. If a console like that is made without the need for a constant online connection for it to work, I could, in theory, keep it offline. That way, the manufacturer won't be able to influence the stored games the same way Steam does when it removes games. No way a console like that would be made. If it did, companies won't be able to remake games the same way Nintendo remade Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Switch 2. They would lose control of the product overall. And if news of the past year has pointed towards a single fact, it's that they don't want to lose control over it. In fact, they want more control. Yeah, that's not happening. But that's the idea. Anyway. Now, to reiterate, I don't expect any of this to happen. Not in my lifetime, even if it did. And I don't expect increasing the storage capacity to fix all problems gaming has. That's just unrealistic. Can you imagine what it's going to be like to load a terabyte large game? Sounds like a nightmare. And the prices are going to go even higher through the roof than they already are. It's all just a dream. But a man can dream. A man can dream. This has been Andy William Mackai. Mackai Lorien, out.